Okay. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Emirates Green Building Council's webinar marking the publication of the UAE Green Buildings Market Brief. My name is Lindsay. I'm the Education Officer at Emirates Green Building Council, and I'm just going to give you all a short introduction and cover some practical points before introducing our moderator and getting started. So I'd like to give a special welcome to all of our Emirates Green Building Council members and partners who are already familiar with our activities and have attended some of our previous events. For those of you who are attending for the first time, Emirates Green Building Council is a not-for-profit membership organisation that was formed in 2006 to contribute to the UAE's goal to be a global leader in sustainability in the built environment. The Council brings together organisations who share our mission and serves as a platform for collaboration and knowledge sharing. We run a range of technical and education programs which have events, trainings and publications throughout the year aimed at raising awareness of green building practice and providing the knowledge and the skills towards sustainability in the UAE. So today's webinar celebrates the launch of one such publication, the UAE Green Building Market Brief. And we've brought together industry experts to discuss the current status of the market in the UAE and the opportunities and the trends shaping the green buildings and projects in the UAE. So before we start, I just want to cover a couple of practical points. So we aim to keep the webinar as interactive as possible. Throughout the webinar, you can submit your questions using the question box on your control panel. The Emirates Green Building Council team will answer any logistical questions directly, and we'll try and address all other questions during the panel discussion, time permitting. So after the webinar, you will be sent a recording along with a link to the publication. So please share any of your feedback with us by completing the exit survey before you leave, and join the conversation on social media. You can follow and post using the hashtag EGBC webinars and tag Emirates Green Building Council in any posts. Finally, if you'd like any further information regarding Emirates Green Building Council, today's topic or how you can join the movement, please contact us through the website or on events@emiratesgreenbuildingcouncil.org. So without further ado, it's my sincere pleasure to introduce Ms. Habiba Al-Marashi, who's the co-founder and board treasurer of Emirates Green Building Council, to deliver the welcoming address and lead the proceedings for today's webinar. So over to you, Habiba.
Thank you very much, Lindsay. A very good morning to all of you, our wonderful panel speakers, our dear audience. Thank you for joining us this beautiful morning. The weather is getting better and we are very positive. And I hope you are all staying healthy and staying safe, and you are abiding by the regulations, which is for our own safety. Today is a special day for us. We are, of course, celebrating the unveiling of a very important publication, which is part of what Emirates Green Building Council does, as Lindsay mentioned, and is launched on an international day, which is part of the World Green Building Council Week. I would like to thank the entities that have helped make this possible. We would like to thank KIO, a very sound supporter, a member with us since the beginning of the journey of Emirates Green Building Council. We are grateful for that. I would like to thank Majid Al Futtaim as well for supporting this year's UAE Green Building Market Brief. Emirates Green Building Council is able to deliver and produce because we have a very wonderful, really sound team of technical expertise within the network of Emirates Green Building Council. Many entities have come forward and contributed to this wonderful publication. So I would like to specifically thank those who have been pivotal in this brief. Abu Dhabi Department of Municipalities and Transport, Dubai Municipality, IWBI, RSB, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah Municipality, Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority, Taqati, Trakhis, and US Green Building Council. We were discussing before we went online that we are connected virtually, and we are all really in a midst of a very unpredictable time in the era of humanity. We are facing challenges, but I am impressed by the human resilience of how we have all come together, and wonderful, very effective platforms are being rolled out as we speak from all over the world. The amount of knowledge that we are gaining from these virtual platforms, I think, is equal to what we have been getting in years from physical traveling. So this is a turning point for every industry. We are trying to thrive, we are trying to deliver, to show our commitment, and to work within the new normal. But having said all that, it is very important that we do not forget that sustainability is at the core of it. So we aim at Emirates Green Building Council to promote best practices in the built environment, and that's where our forte is, and that's what we are known to be doing. How do we do that? By strengthening, by promoting, by encouraging, nurturing green building initiatives from everywhere, whether it is across the UAE or it is in the wider MENA region. And we are very delighted, of course, and privileged to be having strong relations with all the other green building councils in the Arab world, as we were the first in the region to start, and we have held hands with many of them and guided them to be able to come up, and we were instrumental to form the MENA Green Building Council network. So our areas of strength are trainings, capacity building, advocacy, technical services, working with in partnership and in depth with relevant government bodies, doing good studies that is needed in the market to cover some of the gaps that are there, that exist. In reality, we are working with all of you to change the landscape of the built environment, to create the trends, to be trendsetters just instead of just being followers. So this wonderful brief, market brief that has been developed finally will shed light on the green building policies in the UAE and the current status of green buildings in the country. It reiterates the role of the government that it plays in promoting sustainable development in line with our strategic vision, the pioneering initiative of every different government entity in the region who have been effectively involved with us in this development. And the speakers will be talking more details about that. You know, that there will be key findings in this report. I'm very delighted to share with you that the UAE has got nearly today more than 64 million square meters of built up area. And as per the following green building regulations, regardless of which emirate they are in. UAE has set itself aside when it comes to sustainability in general, and it's leading in the region, and it has got, when you look at the indexes as part of the many international organizations, you will find that UAE has scored very high and leading, particularly when you look at protected areas. So there are many areas of sustainability that the UAE should be proud of. We all should be proud of because of what has been achieved, until now. It is one of the first countries that had has ratified the Paris Agreement, and we were the first again to look at the zero carbon buildings and to support achieving the goal by 2050. But that will only be able to be done if all stakeholders are committed, if we are all in this together, and if we believe in it sincerely and work towards that goal. Technology, innovation, these are all not only terminologies, these are really cultures now within the institutions, within the government strategy to ensure that we do not lag behind. the public sector, the government sector, has not just been satisfied with setting a set of regulations, but it's really leading by example. In many parts of the world, you do not see the government leading, but in our country, we are very proud to have government leading this march, and the private sector is becoming an effective partner as we move along. The building industry, the construction industry has seen the market value, have seen the business case of ensuring that their buildings adhere to international green building standards. So if you look at the number of buildings that have voluntarily adopted these standards, you'll find we are the highest in the region. And the LEED certification started in the UAE with the formation of the Emirates Green Building Council in 2006. And if I am not mistaken, there are hundreds of buildings today. We are the highest in the whole region of the certified green buildings according to LEED standards. To further support this direction, organizations are taking on other sustainable measures such as compliance with IWBI well standard. And this is, I'm happy to see that this is a new standard that is coming slowly to the forefront. Retrofitting is becoming the new normal, and that is something to be proud of in the UAE. Particularly, I see it very nicely in Dubai. Entities are very conscious of their water performance, regardless of their sector. And this is very important because they have understood this to be one of the risk areas, and their entities are developing relevant strategies to ensure that they deal with this. And that is for their own sustainability, by the way. And again, to look at zero carbon, zero energy. So these are all terminologies that are coming, and we may find them unique at the moment and very maybe a handful also following it. But once you have the big players following it, the rest will nicely fall in place, and this should become part and parcel of how construction is being developed. When we look at the retrofit as a measure for sustainable real estate development, for example, for hospitality sector, you will find wonderful and inspiring stories coming out of all this. What makes me very happy is companies are nicely, voluntarily getting out of their comfort zone. They are pushing the bar higher, and that is what we need to do, to be on our toes, to challenge ourselves, to see what is out there that I am not following. 3D printing. 3D printing is a platform that is very much available in many parts of the world, yet it's a very unique thing that has not manifested itself very well, although Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Rashid, has very clearly said that his vision is to have UAE and Dubai to be the 3D capital of the world by 2025. We have already finished 2020. So where are we in that, particularly in the built environment? So while we have achieved good progress, there is a lot more that needs to be done. And this particular sector, the built environment, should lead in that direction. Having said all that, I would really encourage you all to think about and to see how important these implementations are, and develop ways and means that we can all work together to ensure that we are delivering. So I would now hand, before I invite the panelists, I would like to call to open the mic for our wonderful technical manager, our in-house expertise, Majd Fayyad, the technical manager of Emirates Green Building Council, who will take us through the details of this market brief and share with us the latest that they have come up with. Majd, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Habiba. Thank you, Habiba, for your words and for the welcome address. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We are indeed very excited to share with you the findings of our 2020 UAE Green Building Market Brief. Before I start, I would like to echo Habiba's words and thank our highlight sponsor KEO and supporting sponsor Majid Al Futtaim, and many thanks to the contributors. Once again, the Department of Municipalities and Transport, Abu Dhabi, Dubai Municipality, Ras Al Khaimah Municipality, Sharjah Electricity and Water Authority, Ministry of Infrastructure Development, RSB Dubai, Takati, Ittihad, Tarakhis, USGBC, GBCI, and International Well Building Institute. As a knowledge hub, Emirates Green Building Council has annually released a green building market briefs, city briefs for Dubai and Abu Dhabi during the last couple of years. These briefs were published in collaboration with World Green Building Council, USGBC, and C40 Cities Climate Leadership Group. However, this year we decided to upgrade our brief to provide the full picture of the green building industry in the UAE and to encompass all Emirates. The 2020 UAE Green Building Market Brief provides facts and evidence about the green building market progress. It also showcases the number of buildings following local UAE regulations, the number of buildings certified with international certifications, as well as the number of retrofitted buildings. We've also highlighted the main international trends that will shape up the green building industry in the future, both in the UAE and globally. The UAE has witnessed a significant shift towards the adoption of low carbon principles and sustainability principles during the last decade. Inspired by federal strategies and local initiatives, several Emirates have developed their own green building regulations and rating systems. Istidama per rating system in Abu Dhabi was launched in 2010 and it's mandated across buildings and villas in Abu Dhabi with a minimum requirement of 1 pearl for private projects and 2 pearl for projects that receive at least 50% of capital funding from the Abu Dhabi government. Dubai has also applied its green building regulations and specifications since 2011, which was mandated in Dubai in 2014. Following that, Dubai Municipality released its green building rating system, its own green building rating system, As-Sa'fat. More recently, in Ras Al Khaimah Municipality developed and launched its green building regulations Berjil, which is mandated across Ras Al Khaimah beginning of this year. Tarakhis Ports Customs and Free Zone Cooperation has also mandated green building regulations since 2008 along 2 paths. The first using the lead requirements, and the second is an in-house certification path. Last year, the Ministry of Infrastructure Development launched its green building guidelines, which is mandated on federal buildings in the UAE beginning of this year. During the same year, Sharjah municipality published its green building guidelines to be piloted in the Emirate of Sharjah. Altogether, these regulations help in creating and facilitating the green building market in the UAE in terms of services, products, materials, and technologies. Here are some figures that demonstrate the successful implementation of these initiatives. Tarakhis Green Building Regulations was implemented on 75 projects using the LEED requirements, and 55 projects following the in-house certification path. In Abu Dhabi, more than 2,400 buildings and 21,600 villas received the Istidama per rating, per design rating system. Whereas more than 460 buildings and 9,900 villas received the Istidama Pearl construction rating in Abu Dhabi. In Dubai, more than 19,000 buildings and 15,500 villas were completed following the Dubai Green Building Regulations and Specifications. Whereas in Ras Al Khaimah, more than 50 building permits and 280 villa permits were issued for buildings and villas following the Barjeel Green Building Regulations. Out of the Istidama projects, most villas and buildings achieved 1 Pearl or 2 Pearl design rating, as you can see in these two figures. Whereas few buildings, as you can see as well, few buildings received 4 Pearl or 5 Pearl rating. All over, as Habiba mentioned, we are excited to announce that there's nearly 64 million meters squared of built-up area following local green building regulations or local certification programs. Out of these, there's 35.3 million meters squared of projects certified under Istidama per rating system, whereas 26.9 million meters squared of projects following the Dubai Green Building Regulations and Specifications. As Habiba mentioned, LEED has gained a great momentum in the UAE with 5.9 million meters squared of LEED certified projects. Out of these LEED projects, 50 projects are platinum certified, 139 gold, 56 silver, and 141 certified. With health and well-being becoming a focal point in the green building realm, building standard was first executed in the UAE last year with 4,000 meters squared of certified projects under the WELL standard. Knowing that many existing buildings in the UAE are inefficient, the UAE government has put concerted focus on retrofitting existing buildings and improving the energy and water performance. Dubai led the way with the Dubai Retrofit program, which was established in 2013. As of April 2020, Dubai has retrofitted 1,241 buildings and 6,658 villas. 18 buildings were retrofitted in Sharjah under the Sharjah Retrofit program, which is led by Siwa, whereas 16 villas were retrofitted in Ras Al Khaimah under RAC Building Retrofit program. Earlier this year, Abu Dhabi government has also launched the Abu Dhabi Energy Services Company to help facilitate and grow the market, the energy efficiency market in the Emirates of Abu Dhabi. To support these, the retrofit market growth, Emirates Green Building Council has launched several programs focusing on the existing buildings and energy and water performance of these buildings. I encourage you to visit our website and learn more about our technical guidelines, the building retrofit training, our benchmarking reports, and the energy efficiency database. Two main trends will shape up the green building industry in the future. The first one is net zero carbon buildings. With the coming decade being very critical in the fight against the climate change, building regulations must align with net zero carbon targets. World Green Building Council has set ambitious targets for the building sector in this regard. All buildings, all new buildings must operate at net zero carbon level by 2030, while all buildings, including existing buildings, must operate at net zero carbon by 2050. The second trend is healthy buildings. As I mentioned, health and well-being is becoming a focal point in the green building realm during the last couple of years. And especially after the COVID-19 pandemic, which has brought even more attention to how indoor environment, indoor air quality, and indoor environmental quality are major factors influencing the occupants' health and well-being. So at last, I encourage you to download the publication to learn more about the green building industry in the UAE. You go to the publications page on our website on the top of the menu, and then you can see all of our publications there. The first one is the UAE Green Building Market Brief. Click on the first one, and then you can download the market brief in both languages, Arabic and English. At last, I would like to end my presentation with an excerpt from Jason Mclennan's book for children. Jason says, "I practice green buildings for a simple reason, love." I believe this is a very important message that we need to teach our children. We practice green buildings out of our love to the planet and to humanity. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Majd. Beautiful, detailed, clear, very eloquent presentation. Thank you very much. So everybody, it's there on our website. Please visit it, download it, share it, discuss it, help us spread the message out. Now it gives me great pleasure to present Dr. Yanis Panos. He's the Regional Manager, Sustainability and Environmental Services Division, KEO. Dr. Yanis.
Thank you very much, Habiba, for the introduction. And it's nice to be in this green building market brief of the Emirates Green Building Council. My presentation today will focus on the market situation from a perspective of consultant and advisor. And I would like to go through not only the amazing things that the Emirates have achieved, but also what are the additional possibilities and opportunities that the current 7 different standards giving to all of us. It seems to be something with it. Before we go to discuss what sustainability can give, we have to understand what sustainability means for all of us. About a year ago, I was giving a presentation to a final year architectural students, and I asked them, based on the perspective and understanding of sustainability, on the meaning of continuation of life and continuation of their own daily life, what does it mean? If you see the words they have used, it's a summary of what we have used and we have provided consultancy for as part of the different green certification schemes, and includes items that are all of them interlinked together. Sustainability, of course, has to do with society, it has to do with the environment, it has to do with ecology, climate change, and of course, our future as society, of course, as the future within UAE. My apologies, but the presentation is not excellent. Of course, sustainability has to do with environmental issues, have to do with social issues, but we must not forget that also has to do with economic issues. And a lot of people at the early stages of the implementation of green certification standards, they were not very convinced that it is something that can add value. However, we have seen in many cases that the application of green certification and sustainability has provided an added value to the final product, which is a building that was very useful to use, was very desirable, and at the same time had a very high productivity in relation to the people working within it. Of course, economic value of a building is very important because in some situations can push the actual developer or investor to focus on sustainability instead of go away of it. So I would like to separate the things that are linked with sustainability when we're trying to give advice. One is, for example, the investors and the developers, which we definitely believe there is a high potential for them to improve the final building. And by doing that, actually, they're giving the confidence to the people that would like to buy it or rent it, that the building will be operate on the highest performance, and at the same time will be a design against a well-accepted compliance framework that is acceptable not only by the individuals, but also by the governments and the people that are going to use it. Of course, within the UAE, we have 7 standards applicable, and this is a very good thing because it gives the options to the individuals to be able to benchmark the buildings against other buildings, monitor the performance, and at the same time to have a very good data like the ones that presented by the Emirates Green Building Council against regionally the national standards and benchmarks. And I'm very pleased of what UAE has achieved until today. Initially was one standard and one vision, the Vision 2030, what had to do a lot about sustainability, and also it was linked with sustainability United Nations agenda. Now we're all 2020, a lot of these things have actually been developed and be implemented. There is a very clear framework from a regulatory way that standards have to be achieved and also have to be followed. Of course, all of them, they're coming to the center of the problem, which is the improvement of the indoor environment, the reduction of emissions, and also the climate change mitigation and adaptation. Now, looking at this framework, you can see that it is very coherent. It has different levels, and at the same time, it provides a very good case study for all the other people that would like to adopt at national level a coherent sustainability standard. And the beauty about the current regulations and the 7 different systems that are applicable is sustainability can apply to any type of development. Here we have some of the projects that we have delivered in UAE or they are under development. And you can see that sustainability is not just for offices, not just for villas, it's not only for high-end developments, and it's not only for the urban environment. It has to do also with the parks, it has to do with the greenery, it has to do also with the free spaces, it has to do with internal spaces, how good these are for humans to live within and actually work within. All of that, again, give me very good confidence that anyone would like to work in sustainability and invest in sustainability in UAE, have all the tools to be able to implement something that will look good, and of course will look something better than what we will consider the norm until recently. Habiba and the chair of Emirates Green Building Council picked up something quite important for this year. We're living through a pandemic that by definition has changed the way we see the world. Of course, it was a pandemic that was produced by, it seems like a bat somewhere in China. And that reminded me straight away the studies and the talks that took place about 10, 20, 30 years ago about the climate change. When they did the initial studies about the climate change, they found out that small decimal numbers, the equivalent of a butterfly moving from one place to another, can change the whole global environment. And actually, we have seen it now. Even if that was computational modeling, we see that something like that may happen. And that will have an impact when climate change will actually happen. The other thing, it has to do with what's called the boiling frog syndrome. And what people on climate change are saying are, we are very confident that we will adapt. That's why a lot of governments are not taking actions. With the current pandemic, it was obvious that the countries that they had a very good health system, they were very confident that will not have a big hit of the COVID-19. And it seems these countries, the ones that they sit in the boiling water, have been hit the most. And the last thing that happened this year was actually, in some situations, we could see the world as it should be. I have seen a lot of pictures of the Dubai Marina or the Abu Dhabi Corniche, where you can see a lot of fishes coming out and be actually like a real nice marina and nice beach. Now, what we have seen this year, in order to solve a global problem, we came to what epidemiology science can do, social science, economists initially. And then the governments thought, okay, we have to do something about the economies. Now you see an application of a global solution is very similar to what the sustainability consultants have said for many years, that in order for someone to sustain itself and be sustainable, we must focus on social, environmental, and economic aspects. Of course, we have a very good framework, and we would like to see how we can move forward. First of all, I would like to thank all the authorities and all the individuals who have been involved in the development of the regulations. And I would like these regulations to be implemented and be more focused on the actual implementations. Then the next step will be to focus on how these standards, which are very good standards, can provide the added benefit. Based on the debrief, it is clear that a lot of developers are going just to the minimum requirements in most of the cases. However, there are some specific sustainability assessment criteria that can provide additional financial benefits for the user and also improve the happiness. And maybe a very good way of moving forward to start thinking from the client side, from the actual developer side, to impose some of the criteria as minimum mandatory requirements on top of the minimum planning requirements. Of course, they have to understand how this can be achieved, what will be for different typology and different system, the ideal setup of the minimum criteria requirements. The next step regarding to the local authorities and the market, we have to see how we can go to implement it in a big scale and see the national and economic benefits. And what I'm saying about that is that systems are definitely a good way to move forward. Now we have to think also what will be the next step or the next steps. One of the important next step is to focus also on the existing buildings that were built before any sustainability standard has implemented and try to put them at this level of sustainability compliance that the new buildings are right now. Of course, we must focus and don't forget that our future is linked with our current operations, which have to do with our communities, we have to do ourselves, it have to do with the kids going to the schools. It has to do also with economic growth. All of that have to maintain based on sustainability framework, which can definitely be supported by the current applied sustainability regulations and the different systems that currently are available here. We, as a consultants, advisors, and also as different institutes, we can focus on these criteria that actually can improve the micro and macro level of sustainability and see how this can improve different aspects of it. For example, one of the good criteria that, in my way, not a lot of focus has been given in the past is the indoor environment and everything that has to do with internal spaces. During this pandemic, we have seen that more and more of us needed a space that is comfortable, hygienic, and at the same time can provide the most benefits when we all work and operate within that. And the question is, could these criteria being mandatory or could these requirements express in a different way on support of the overall improvement of the financial merits of the sustainability system? If during the last 5 months we didn't have buildings that were very hygienic, of course the economy will not start peaking as it's doing right now. And as a final statement, I would like to say that of course sustainability for some people may sound that is an additional cost, but in reality an appropriate investment in sustainability is a good value for money and can clearly provide benefits, financial benefits for the end user, which are benefits that have to do with increased performance of the building, increased productivity of the individuals working with that, and of course, a healthy environment that people would like to live and actually want to stay there. And I would like to thank all of you that you've been here and actually you're listening to this presentation and the findings of the Emirates Green Building Council market brief. Thank you.
Thank you very much, really, Dr. Yani, for that very insightful and informative presentation. And thank you very much for focusing on the financial aspects of it. I think it is very important, the resilience, the adaptation, and you rightly mentioned that this is not only about the environmental aspect of it. It's about the very continuity of our operations and our businesses, and talking about looking at closer home. There will be, I'm sure, a lot of pointers that our listeners are picking up on, and you can put your questions in the chat box, and we will definitely come back to some of these questions during our discussions in the panel. So that was Dr. Yani Spanos. He is, of course, a board member of the Emirates Green Building Council, and he sits in his line of work. He is all the time connected with multi-stakeholders, with government officials, with funding parts of issues, which is a very important part, as with architects and contractors. So thank you very much again for that. We will now go to the start inviting our different speakers. And of course, Dr. Yanis, you will be one of the speakers as well. You will join us. So I will be biased. I will start with the ladies in my presentation, in introducing them. We have Abir Sajwani. Abir Sajwani is a senior specialist, environmental planning operation department of municipalities and transport. Now you see Abir today. I have seen Abir when she was starting live. A fresh graduate, very ambitious, very switch on, driven, passion for the environment. She has gone through her career in so many disciplines and worked in different organizations. So she amassed good wealth of information. She went to Italy and did her master's. She's one UAE national lady that I'm very proud of. So ahla wa sahlan, Abir, and welcome on board this program, this session with us today. And one of the things that I would like to share, that her ambitions did not just stop in the UAE. She is a full member of the Institute of Environmental Management and Assessment, UK, and a chartered environmentalist as well. So ahla wa sahlan. The second lady that I have on board, again, ahla wa sahlan, is Dipti. Dipti is a regional director, market development, GBCI in the Middle East markets. She is based, of course, in Dubai. She's an architect and she's a lead AP and holds an ALM Masters in Sustainability and Environmental Management from Harvard University. Again, mashallah, this generation is really setting the bar high for their peers, and showing that the sky is not the limit, really, and good for you, ladies. Now we come to the gentleman. Andrea Di Gregorio. He is the Executive Director, Energy Efficiency and Renewables Office at Ras Al Khaimah Municipality Department. Mr. Andreas has the mandate to support the development of Ras Al Khaimah Emirate towards lower energy intensity and a higher share of the renewables in the generation mix. He has more than 20 years of experience in the energy sector in Europe and in the Middle East. He has supported previously the activation of Dubai demand-side management strategy as a PMO director at the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy, UAE, and the director of strategy and continuous improvement at Taqati, UAE. So he has got good experience from the big Emirates, and we are very delighted to have you on board. Last but not the least, Abdul Alim Khan. He's a senior associate, Istidama Policies Development Department of Municipalities and Transport. He's a senior associate at the Istidama at the Department of Municipalities and Transport. Since the launch of Istidama in 2010, Abdul Alim has been working on the implementation of the Pearl Rating Initiative, one of the first rating initiatives in the region. Of course, I would say it is the first rating initiative in the region, and he is a co-Istidama team member. Very unique panel speakers. Ahlan wa sahlan, and thank you and welcome on board. So we will start with questions, you know, and for all our listeners as well who are joining us, who have joined us today, I will be asking questions, but should you have questions as well, please put them in the chat box and we will make sure that the questions are answered. Abir, my first question is to you. As of mid-2020, research shows that there is 35.3 million square meter of built-up area certified under Istidama. So what is the role of Istidama in the bigger picture of Abu Dhabi's sustainability scene?
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ms. Habiba, for this very generous introduction. And it's my pleasure to be here among my colleagues here in the panel for the discussion. To answer the question, Istidama means really the sustainability in Arabic that represents the vision to create a sustainable Abu Dhabi by preserving and enriching Abu Dhabi's physical and cultural identity, in addition to improving the quality of life for the residents. One of the key enabling components is to achieve Istidama vision is the PER rating system. So a PER rating system is one of the components for that bigger vision of Istidama. And it's this PER rating system is the Arab First Arab First World Sustainability rating system that is designed to assess the sustainability performance of buildings and in addition to communities as well and villas. So not only buildings and villas, also on the community, sustainable communities as well. And they go throughout the project life cycle, including design, construction, and future operation. The broader role of Istidama and the PER rating system is to create a culture of sustainability rather than just adhering to the government requirement and doing the government minimum green building mandate. So we're aiming to create this culture in order to have the sustainability embedded in all our activities. The Department of Municipalities and Transport also continues to play a major role in supporting the ongoing implementation of the demand-side management initiative incorporated within the Abu Dhabi Energy Outlook. With building demand expected to grow steadily until it peaks in 2030, energy efficiency improvements will assist in offsetting the energy demand growth from new buildings. Also, the diversification of economy is expected to initiate growth in the commercial and the services sector. This is also expected to increase the energy demand from also non-residential building stock. In order to abate this anticipated impact of the energy demand, the Department of Energy has recently received the Executive Council approval on the demand-side management strategy. The strategy targets 22% reduction in electricity consumption by 2030. So how does Istidama support this? Is the ongoing implementation of DMT's Department of Municipalities and Transport. Istidama PER rating system falls under the Building Regulation Program within the DSM strategy. This is the second largest contributor to the electricity and savings target. That has been responsible for about 5% of the overall 22% reduction in electricity demand. The ongoing implementation of Istidama PER rating system has achieved around 30% of its 2030 targets of expected savings compared to other DSM initiatives. So we are way ahead in terms of our implementation. We achieved 30% of expected savings. We continue to work across the UAE, not just within the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, but also to maintain partnership with other stakeholders outside the Emirate of Abu Dhabi, such as the Sheikh Zayed housing program. Today we have about 3,900 Istidama PER rated villas that are located outside the Emirate of Abu Dhabi. So we're spreading across, trying to spread the message of sustainability and being the Istidama PER rating system being adopted, preferred sometimes by stakeholders. the current pandemic, or the situation we are living in, is actually a driver. It's a reminder for us that sustainability is key to a more resilient future. You know, this flagship sustainability program for the Emirate it's our responsibility to build a healthier, more sustainable future for the current and the future generation, with more emphasis also, as well as my colleagues mentioned, because we are all living in the indoor environments now. So the focus on the indoor health and the indoor environment and quality and is more than ever than used to be in the previous times. So that's from my perspective on how it's.
Yes, thank you very much, Habir. Abdul Alim, as a core team member of Istidama Pearl rating system, research shows that there is little buy-in to Pearl 3 and Pearl 4. Can you please share with us what are the reasons, what are the challenges, why is that, and what is the department doing about it?
Okay. Firstly, I'd like to thank you for inviting me here today, along with my colleagues, and for being part of the panel. So thank you very much. In terms of seeing higher levels of certification, we are currently seeing projects that are achieving higher levels of certification, such as those located in Mazda, due to certain requirements that have been imposed in that master plan area. So if you look at projects that are in Mazda, for example, they are achieving a minimum 3 Pearl rating within Mazda city, and that has been set by Mazda as a minimum standard for their buildings. So we are seeing some buildings exceeding the minimum Pearl rating, but the challenge remains in looking at going at 4 and 5 Pearl ratings, and there are two main reasons for that. We believe. Firstly, for the majority of projects to get beyond the minimum Pearl rating, they typically do so by first getting to 2 Pearl rating, for example, by achieving quick wins credits, which are no cost or low cost. But when you look at achieving higher levels of Pearl certification, such as 4 and 5 Pearls, project teams need to target the remaining credits, which are from the various credit categories. And these credits tend to have an increase in cost premium. For example, the credits within the resourceful energy credit category. The challenge with achieving some of these credits, energy-related credits, lies with economic viability as it relates to payback periods and whole life cycle costs, right? We here in Abu Dhabi, we are fortunate and we are extremely blessed that we are benefiting from generous subsidies related to electricity. While the private sector does benefit from these subsidies, these tariff subsidies, it also reduces the incentives for implementing various energy efficiency measures, which are associated with higher levels of green building certification. That being said, over the last few years, we have been seeing here in Abu Dhabi tariff reforms, which are helping to change these conditions. The second reason for this challenge is related to the split incentive barrier, right? The majority of development in Abu Dhabi and in fact around the world is speculative development, whereby developers build their projects either for sale to a new owner, and that new owner may in fact either occupy the property or rent the property out to another tenant, or directly rent it to a new tenant. The asset is retained by the client or the developer and essentially rented to a tenant who pays the utility bills. In both of these cases, the split incentive barrier exists, whereby the deployment of energy efficiency measures are in fact deterred. Split incentives occur when those responsible for paying the utility bills, such as the tenant, or the new owner, are not the same entity or the same beneficiary as those making the capital investment decision, such as the client or the developer. In such circumstances, the developer is less likely or less inclined to make the investment needed in higher levels of green building certification, when compared to the benefits which will inevitably pass on to the tenants. So there's a disincentive there between who is paying for the higher level of green building certification and who actually benefits from the reduction in utility costs or resource use. Other constraints related to this matter which could pose challenges are a perception of a higher related construction cost and a mismatch between the relatively short hold period for real estate assets in certain portfolios and the long lifespan of buildings and when they may be affected by climate change and changes in stricter regulations. So the main drivers here would be to make the right capital investment decisions through regulations, which we believe should also be coupled with suitable incentives.
Thank you very much, Abdalim. That's very clear and very elaborate. I appreciate that. My question is to Andrea. Andrea, we have all heard about Barjeel, the release. Can you share with us more about the release of Barjeel? And with your vast experience from Abu Dhabi and Dubai, how are you adding value, if we'd like to say, to the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, and how are you contributing to ensure that sustainability in the built environment is nicely entrenched into the strategies and policies, not only in Ras Al Khaimah, but in Northern Emirates as well? Can you please share with us, shed light more on that?
Thank you, Aviva. Thank you. I would like to thank also the Emirates Green Building Council for this initiative, for your initiatives in general, I would say, for the impact that you're having on in terms of market awareness, and also for the encouragement that you provide to people like us who work in this sector. With regards to Barjeel was developed through a long process of say analysis and consultation with a number of stakeholders, over 70 entities included in our consultation panel. And I think all the people who are here in this panel were involved somehow in the process. This ensured, in particular, a solid, say, feasibility of Barjeel in terms of technical aspects and also economic aspects across the entire value chain. So from the supply side, from the design and construction, and also from the demand side, from the side of investors. This is a key learning. In practice, all these codes that are present here are somehow based to a certain extent on the establishment of minimum requirements for buildings. And so it is key that these minimum requirements be well calibrated to the different segments of the implementing entities, the residential, the UAE nationals, the commercial, the industrial, etc. It is important because otherwise, there is a risk in general in these efforts that you may end up into some market reaction and having to deal with a number of exceptions. Here in Ras Al Khaimah municipality, we are very happy until now to say that until the end of August this year, over 600 buildings were permitted under Barjeel, and there was no single exception until now. So this means that the market has somehow accepted the requirements of the code, even in a moment, as you said, Aviva, previously, a moment of uncertainty related to the current pandemic. This offers also some learning more in general for the application of similar codes in other Emirates, and also for the continuation of this effort. The learning, one of the learnings is that even in a context of low energy prices, Abdalim was also mentioning this, some of the segments, consumer segments are incentivized. Even in this context, it is possible to establish green building regulations which have a solid economic rationale for all participants, even for UAE nationals, for which today Barjeel is mandatory. Of course, Barjeel had to be calibrated for them. So we had to select a subset of items to make the business case reasonable also for them. So this should provide encouragement to everybody, including the Emirates, who have not yet implemented similar initiatives, to go ahead, and we are happy also to support them. I personally wish that a code like Barjeel could be applied elsewhere than Ras Al Khaimah. Also, from a point of view of the market, of the supply side, we run the risk in the UAE of ending up with a number of different codes, and it is beneficial to have some level of uniformity to support also efficiency along the supply chain. There are learnings also in terms of continuation of Barjeel. All these codes were established in the UAE were based also on the assumption that once we put the first step, then we would then be able to upgrade them over time to take into account of the evolving technology, of the evolving economics of energy efficiency. And this is somehow happening. I think Dubai has done this to some extent, of upgrading the code. Even us, we are upgrading the code with minor refinements. And this is bringing some benefit, but we need to be conscious that a significant step of improvement of these codes will eventually end up with diminishing returns and therefore longer payback times, up to a certain point where there will be some significant resistance to increasing the level of minimum requirements. Therefore, we need to think about other measures. We need to look at the big picture again. We need to see other ways for investors to monetize their investments in a green building. If we want to reach the level of efficiencies that the Emirates Green Building Council, I would say the Green Building Council in general, has shown, I mean, having zero carbon by 2030 for new buildings is a significant step towards where we are today. To achieve that, we need to look at the bigger picture, look at systems that allow investors to have a better return from their investment. And we look with great interest at what the Dubai Supreme Council of Energy has done, RSB Dubai has done with the establishment or the investigation establishment of a rating system for buildings. We are looking at green finance as a method to provide additional value to investors. And other measures that we are looking at for the next wave of Barjeel. We also need to be conscious that Barjeel addresses individual buildings. There are also other opportunities at the level of the public realm. And that's why I think you're aware there was also some previous announcement, and some of you are already in our consultation panel. The municipality has been working on guidelines for communities, for efficient, sustainable communities, so that will complement Barjeel for what concerns the public realm. In general, I would say, just to complete this, my point, that Barjeel until now is a successful first step. There are points that could be taken also outside of Ras Al Khaimah for learnings. And at the same time, I would say we are also learning from this, and we will take advantage of our learnings for the continuous upgrade of our efforts.
Thank you very much, Andrea. There are quite a few questions that I will be putting for the team, but I want to move to Dipti now. Dipti, as you know, net zero is one of the global platforms that has been rolled out or trend, and it is picking up, and UAE has taken that on board as well. And many companies have started, aligning their strategies, looking at how that fits into their own operations, and so on and so forth. So with global ratings like LEED, ARC, what do you think the role is in achieving net zero, in helping organization or in aligning these rating systems with these requirements?
Thank you, Ms. Habiba. Good morning, dear panelists, all the attendees on the call today. Before I move into answering the actual question, I want to take this opportunity to thank Emirates Green Building Council. And in the past, I've had the opportunity to listen to Ms. Habiba moderate panels. So today is my honor to be part of one such panel. And ma'am, I really like the concept of ladies first, SDG number 7, and that's something I look for in every panel session or any flyer that goes out on social media. How many women and how many men? So today I think we've also covered SDGs as part of Emirates Green Building Council's Green Building Market Brief launch. So many congratulations on that as well. Thank
Indeed.
you to all the speakers. Thank you to all the speakers for setting the background for the green building market in the UAE. And it gave me immense happiness to, yesterday we had our town hall session for the United Arab Emirates, and we've seen one of the highest participations globally in our UAE town hall session. So it really shows the commitment of the professionals in UAE as well as the people of the United Arab Emirates to support the mission and move forward. LEED certifications, rightly mentioned, began in 2006 in the Middle East region, and some of the very first buildings to be certified were the Pacific Controls headquarters, Metito headquarters, and the Wafi district cooling plant. Why I called out the names is because that itself gives a broad spectrum of what different project typologies can achieve through certification and what are the sectors that have come into certified. So we've seen district cooling plants to office buildings, schools, industrial manufacturing, warehouses, hospitality, you name it, and we have that in the UAE. Nearly 60 million square feet of LEED certified space. Why I'm calling out all this data is to let our audience today understand that UAE has always been one of the top 10 markets globally outside of the United States and Canada. And we are still able to maintain that momentum with nearly 2,000 LEED accredited professionals out there and nearly 20 USGBC faculty working hard to educate the people. Now, coming to the actual question of net zero and what is USGBC and GBCI's vision and how can we help project teams get there? A couple of years ago, we launched our LEED Zero program, wherein we are inviting all LEED certified projects to participate by submitting 12 months of data. And the certification is valid for 3 years and it's applicable for LEED Zero Carbon, LEED Zero Energy, LEED Zero Waste, and LEED Zero Water. Every person's definition of LEED Zero can vary. It's different. We've seen so many definitions float out there, but the concept, the essence of zero is very simple. Make more than you use, right? So if you're able to strike that balance between your consumption and your production, then I think you've hit the nail on the head and you're able to achieve that level of success. So LEED Zero is our first program. Almost every distinguished panelist today spoke about the 99%, as I fondly call it. For me, the 99% is the existing buildings that are out there. Even if LEED began as a rating system focused on new construction, very soon we were able to onboard the operations and maintenance program, with Dubai Chamber being the first building in the MENA region to certify under the operations and maintenance program. Now, the operations and maintenance program is a certification available through our performance-based platform ARC, as Ms. Habiba mentioned. Initially, ARC was made free accessible to LEED certified projects. Eventually, what we did was we opened the market. In November 2019, we opened it to the world and we said, we're launching ARC for all. What does that mean? We're saying everyone, irrespective of your space, irrespective of the occupancy, the building typology, please go ahead, report data and see how you're performing. You may be a LEED Platinum certified building, But if you do not manage your building properly, then we still don't know whether you're performing to LEED Platinum standards. Or even if you're not a LEED certified building, how far away are you from achieving that particular threshold of performance that you have envisioned for your facility? With ARC, we are also offering performance certificates. So let's say project teams are not ready with data ready with 12 months of performance data. They only have data across energy and water categories, for example. How is it that they can get recognized for the good work they do, even if it's in a streamlined manner for energy and water? So we've launched ARC performance certificates, where if you have a baseline year and if you're able to show improvement over that baseline year, we're offering performance certificates. And then as an incremental step, you can target transportation, you can target waste, you can target occupant satisfaction. I'll also want to proudly mention that health, wellness, equity, resiliency, and sustainability is the second generation mantra of USGBC, because in 2018, USGBC celebrated 25 years since our launch. And seeing the maturity across markets, we wanted to raise the bar. So what we are saying is, like Andrea correctly mentioned, right? At every given point in time, you have to push the market forward to perform better. But we also want to make sure that our programs are adaptable or adoptable to project teams, and we don't want to leave anybody behind. We want to have that inclusive culture. So that's why we are getting better. I'm sure many of you on the call know that we are currently in our LEED version 4.1. Majd mentioned that Trakis used LEED standards initially. They used the LEED older version of the LEED. So we've come a long way from that. We are in 4.1 beta, where we are collecting market feedback. Now, after launching 4.1, we gave project teams across the world an opportunity to substitute some credits from 4.1 onto version 4, because a lot of projects had already registered under LEED version 4. We saw 11,000 credits being substituted in the Middle East region from 4.1 onto version 4. What does that mean in layman language, right? So what it means is people are willing to go that extra step. They are willing to raise the bar. They are open to newer and better versions of a green building program, be it LEED, be it Virgil, be it any Estidama, be it any rating system. People are willing to go that extra measure. There was also a mention on LEED for cities and communities. So I want to bring up the LEED for Cities and Communities program, where we are focusing on resiliency and social equity. Because we feel that if we do not consider, especially in the wake of the pandemic, if we do not consider all stratas of the society, if we do not take the demographics into account, there's no point in saying that we are sustainable if we do not factor in the human element. That being said, my many congratulations to the Emirates of Dubai for being a LEED Platinum city in the existing phase, which means that they did not do any extra documentation for LEED certification. They only reported their performance. And many congratulations to the team who pulled that off in 9 months. That's all they took. Before I finish, I want to also mention safety first pilot credits and ARC re-entry strategies. Safety first pilot credits are those credits available to participating projects on cleaning and disinfecting, re-entering your workplace, building water management systems, managing the indoor air quality, pandemic planning, and social equity. And ARC re-entry strategies are mainly directed towards how is it that we can enter a building with incremental approach to managing a pandemic, managing our facilities in the wake of a pandemic. So my humble request to all of you who are pursuing a zero certification, be it in the new construction stage, be it in the existing stage, is to first start measuring what is the impact of, what is your footprint. And how does one convert that footprint into a handprint that has a positive impact? With that, thank you very much once again, and I'll pass the floor to Ms. Habiba.
Thank you very much, Dipti, for a very eloquent presentation and highlighting the facts that we have on the ground. Thank you very much. I will go to Yani. One of the aspects of green building is their positive impact on the health and well-being of people who live and work in those buildings. So what would you say are the challenges that face this particular issue, particularly now with COVID-19? Have you seen an uptake from developers, from builders to take projects and to look at this issue, particularly since beginning of this year?
Thank you, Habiba. This is a very good question. And in reality, I don't know if it's a challenge or a lost opportunity. In the Western world, 20 years ago, the driver for sustainability was energy reduction. We're saving money. Let's do it. Here it's a little bit more challenging because the energy cost is low. However, there are some great opportunities, just to explain to the clients, by investing in the health of the building, well-being. Actually, they can make money for themselves. And there have been two good case studies, personal case studies, in one 2014 and one in 2018, when for a semi-public organization, in order to involve the team as part of the design within a respectful way, I start challenging them on the decisions. And one of the challenges I put them was, why you don't want to achieve the indoor air quality and daylight credits? And they brought the cost consultants, the quantity surveyors, the response was, that will cost us a lot. So I sat with a client, very politely, I explained to him that, what about if you can improve your productivity by 1% and you lose your time lost for long breaks or for sickness for 2%? And then he started going into the discussion. That's why I say challenging the clients. And he went back, and next week he came and told me, Yanni, I would like to achieve the highest rating, because based on the calculation, my cost consultants say, if we can achieve these improvements, not only it will pay your investment on this element of sustainability, it will pay back the whole credit, and the whole sustainability rating increase. And that's actually our documented data with full costs. That's why I say it's a lost opportunity. I believe it's a lost opportunity because a lot of the buildings do not remain with us, and it's developed by developers that just want to ship it to the clients. At the same time, though, a lot of things have changed the last 3 months. The last month I have been into integrated design meetings, and the discussion was how we can increase the ventilation rate and put more daylight so to kill the virus. Actually, that's not what's happening, and that's the part of the discussion. All the tools we have right here is very good tools, but we have to think it's a tool. By achieving a platinum rating or the most pearls, actually it's certification. In reality, we have to look what is the purpose of the building, and we have to think some word that we have forgotten, fit for purpose. And based on that, to optimize the different criteria on their own environment. Now, if we would like to kill the virus or remove it from the space, we have to make all the buildings operate like hospitals. And that definitely will not happen due to the cost and energy consumption. But if we can improve the air in such level to maintain our working capabilities, that will be a great benefit for everyone. Interesting enough, in both these integrated design meetings, the solution is, yes, let's increase it, but let's do something more on the energy efficiency merits, because we don't want to increase our energy consumption. And that is very balanced approach to the problem. But let's focus on the client needs. Let's focus on how the builds will operate. This is really important, because if we focus on that from the first thing of our discussion, then we can go back to the tools, which is the sustainability standards, to optimize the building. Thank you.
Thank you very much, really. So what you are saying is really the rating systems and all are just means to an end. You know, the end is to have a healthy, thriving, kicking place where people can live and work and produce. that does not have an impact on their health and does not have an impact on the environment and has got a positive economic returns.
Absolutely.
I hope that's what you just said, right?
Absolutely, you're absolutely correct, Habiba.
I wanted to ask our national rating system operators, Istidama and Barjeel, how often do you revisit and to update and to upgrade, particularly with this drastic current pandemic that we are facing? Have you revisited any aspects of Barjeel or of Istidama to ensure that this issue is taken into perspective? And the question is to both, Barjeel and Istidama.
I can provide the first answer. So even in the current situation, we are considering some updates, and as I said before, these are marginal updates at the moment. We have issued Barjeel in 2019. It became mandatory this year and January this year, so it is a relatively new code that needs a phase of establishment. So we don't want to make major changes, but we are thinking about upgrades, especially in consideration of the fact that ESMA has recently updated the standards of efficiency of AEC, which will become mandatory from January next year. And this automatically leads to considerations of where green building code should position itself. We have always, from the very beginning of Barjeel, we have positioned ourselves towards a higher level of efficiency than the minimum requirements of ESMA. So basically, a 2-star versus a 1-star is the minimum. And there are also 3-star requirements for certain building types. And we would want to continue this game, and therefore any update from in terms of the requirements from ESMA automatically would lead to considerations of update from us. We will apply minor refinements based on our learnings until the moment when instead more important considerations will need to be made when it comes to the second wave of this. As I mentioned, and I think Abdelalim also mentioned in his previous conversation, there is we can only bring a big impact from now. I mean, now the most important the first steps have been made in large part of the UAE. Abu Dhabi, Dubai, Ras Al Khaimah have all made significant bets on this, established the first base. We will only be able to make a substantial improvement from this base if we address the game changers, if we address the main challenges. And one of the main enablers of challenges is the split incentive problem. The split incentive means difference of incentives between those who invest and those who reap the benefits. And this stands along a line of investors, building owners, utilities, and users of a building. So we need to address this. In many other markets, for example, utilities support energy efficiency investments in terms also of incentives. And this is less present here than it is elsewhere. We need to start considering it, especially for UAE nationals, where a UAE national who invests in a more efficient building will get just a small part of the total benefit, while the majority of the benefit will be captured by the utility. So how do we make sure that the utility also supports these investments? Otherwise, these investments run the risk of never taking place. And the same thing applies between the owner and the tenant. So how do we ensure this? And this is not a simple problem. We need to think about a combination of solutions. Rating systems are one, but as I mentioned, there are many others that we should consider. We should consider connections between these rating systems with real estate transactions. We need to start considering also green finance in support of these investments, incentives perhaps provided through the utilities. All these need to be considered at a certain point, and I hope this comes soon to achieve, say, the aspirations that we all have for carbon neutral buildings in the near future.
Are these some of the things that are in the pipeline in the Emirate of Ras Al Khaimah, the incentives, the financial support and all that?
They are in a study phase. So absolutely, in our roadmap, there is a study of these forms of incentive preparation for the wave 2 in the next year and the following year. It is in our roadmap of study.
Sidama, Abdul Alim, Abir.
Yeah. So building on to my first response, yes, there is a need, a dire need to update, and as we move into this post-pandemic, hopefully a post-pandemic period and a new normal, definitely there's a need to reevaluate our current position and to improve moving forward. Some of the challenges that others have mentioned and myself related to split incentives need to be looked at as to what are the appropriate incentives that we can use. And in that regard, the Department of Municipalities and Transport is well placed to look at planning-based incentives, because we are not only a planning authority in terms of we give planning approvals, but we also have the green building certification under our remit. And with the combination of those two functions, we are well equipped to implement bonuses that are linked to planning approvals, such as increasing heights and GFE, which can be given to those projects who are willing to commit to higher levels of certification at the planning stage. And comparable incentives programs like this do exist around the world. In fact, the Building and Construction Authority, in combination with the Urban Redevelopment Authority in Singapore, implemented the BCA Green Mark incentive GFA bonus incentive scheme, whereby they increased levels of a minimum allowable GFA based on higher Green Mark certification levels. And what that had an impact on was improving the number of developments and buildings that went to higher levels of Green Mark certification. So I think because there's a comparable there, and because the DMT has planning and the green building certification on its remit, it's well poised to look at such incentives, which will help improve the number of projects that we have exceeding the minimum required per rating. I think that's something that we would like to look at in future together with our colleagues in the urban planning section.
Thank you very much. By 2030, we are supposed to have delivered on the 17 Sustainable Development Goals. As governments, as businesses, as individuals, as academia, as everybody. Focus on the sustainable green building, on the built environment particularly. What is really happening in the UAE in this particular sector in aligning the strategies, operation, what has been offered, the products that are in the market, aligning it with the delivery of SDGs, with particularly goal number 13, climate action, and others. So this question is for everybody. We will start with Dr. Yani, and then Andrea, and then Dipti, as I see you on my screen, yes? Abdul Alim, and then Abir.
First of all, I'm very honored that I live in the Emirates, because in the Emirates was one of the first countries in the GCC that actually wanted to implement sustainability, and they have done. And of course, the last 10 years, slowly, they had the strong momentum of certification, bringing more Emirates and going stronger and stronger. I want to see this momentum to be kept until 2030. Of course, there is a lot of things to be done. There are strong regulations, there are strong sustainability standards. We must not forget the existing buildings. And also we must not forget that the new buildings, they may have to be further optimized from the lessons we learned during this pandemic. That's one of the first stages. The other, of course, is the zero carbon or the zero energy. My advice, I mean, even to the clients, is it has to be a balanced approach. What UAE has achieved the last 5 years is continuous reduction of the carbon emissions, which is much higher reduction than all the other GCC countries and all the MENA region, based on the trajectory. Now, this can continue up to a level because unfortunately we're living in a very, very challenging external environment. But there's so many drivers based on the national grid, on the alternative source of energy, the new 3.5 gigabyte photovoltaic pulse in Abu Dhabi. It has to be a combination, but we'll never go to zero carbon just with renewables. Our buildings have to be improved, have to be reduced significantly. Now, there must be a balance, health and energy reduction. If somehow through the regulations or through the advice we found this ideal balance, I believe the 2030 is not far away, not only in years, but actually in realization of the dream of 2030.
Thank you very much, Andrea.
From my side, the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations, for me, are a great initiative. It brings unity, or at least of language, among different countries and markets and players. There is increasing awareness of the need to reduce carbon emissions. We have recently done a series of interviews for policies, for policy updates with the residents in Ras Al Khaimah, and many of them mention carbon emissions as an important aspect to work on, beyond all the considerations on economic benefits that we mentioned before. From a perspective of regulators, of energy efficiency agencies, most of them today, even in the UAE, Takati, Dubai, also our REAM office in Ras Al Khaimah, we map our efforts against the Sustainable Development Goals. So this is something that generates a little bit of awareness in the market, also supports, encourages our efforts going forward. Of course, this is just a base, but there are many other things, as I mentioned, that we need to address to make a substantial change.
I'm going to go now. So if you look at the Sustainable Development Goal chart, the first line, right? So SDG 1, no poverty, zero hunger, health and wellness. Then comes quality of education, 5 on women empowerment, 6 on clean water and sanitization. I think as an expat who has been here for the last 32 years, I came here when I was a small child, and I think we take the UAE for granted on all these accounts, because nobody can raise a finger at any of these goals at the top, right? So that's the level of infrastructure provided by the government of UAE. Then comes the next line, SDG number 7 on energy, right? So our focus has been from 7 onwards to 17 on partnerships. So how is it that we can work from 7 to 17 while also keeping number 3 in mind, which is health and wellness? How do we keep, so across our actions on energy reduction, water reduction, and on the core of sustainability as we define it, it's time to think a little more broadly on how is it that we can integrate all the other softer aspects, all the intangible aspects. So how do we make these intangible elements visible to the eye? Like I said, we may not realize what we have here in this nation, but the comfort, the safety, security, everything provided here is commendable. So how is it that we can focus on the core of sustainability and then speak about our success, and how is it that we make our society more inclusive, we make it more better as the days go by. I don't think, calling out 1 or 2 aspects of sustainability or the SDGs will do justice to what I say today. So I think our outlook has to be very holistic, at the same time very narrow, focusing on the minutest of detail to make the society more holistic and strong with each passing day.
Thank you very much. Abdul Ali.
Yeah, thanks again. Just building on what my colleagues have mentioned already, I think we're on a cusp of a great opportunity. And that opportunity lies in continued collaboration with our various entities, regardless of what rating system or regulation might be. If you look around the world, there are over 200 of these different rating systems that exist globally. And they all have common objectives, just like we all have common objectives, and the Sustainable Development Goals have common objectives. And I think the opportunity here is to have continued collaboration with each of the stakeholders so that we learn from each other's successes and that we can plan towards these 2030 and 2050 goals together. What needs to be done is a unified action plan for the UAE that will be delivered very shortly as time progresses, and there will need to be collaboration across the various stakeholders from each of the Emirates. And we look forward to working and continued collaboration with all stakeholders as we move towards these unified goals. And I think that's something that we have a great opportunity ahead of us to contribute to.
Thank you, Abir.
I think in terms of the SDGs and how they are integrated into this holistic approach of planning and sustainable development, I think the focus would be the SDG 11, which is sustainable cities and communities. And as this is the umbrella that encompasses all of the other SDGs, you know, into this important aspect, look into the cities as they are the center for where the sustainability initiatives, where water conservation, where electricity conservation is happening. So looking at this big picture of planning and all the way to the details of looking into each sector and its contribution in the sustainability vision. So again, I'm going to reiterate how important is the collaboration and cooperation between different sectors, with everyone not looking only at his mandate, but looking at the interdisciplinary approach of not only looking in the silos. You know, I'm concerned about health, I'm concerned about environment, I'm concerned about economy. No, you need to look at it into a holistic, sustainable vision that somehow binds all of these requirements under the sustainable development. And this is why this framework was initiated, to have this into a more holistic vision of a sustainable city that encompasses all of the other SDGs into it, and pushing towards the achievement of SDGs in the planning functions all the way to the execution and realization of those aspects on ground. So this is how I see it.
Thank you very much. Beautiful, unique answers and each one of you gave me a new perspective, a new angle to it. So I really appreciate that. Thank you very much, really, all of you. I have again another question to all the panelists. You know, today, of course, was a very special day for us. We launched the market brief. You heard about the findings of the market brief. You heard about each other's contribution and answers to all the questions that were asked. So really, what are your thoughts? Yani shortly, briefly, give me, each one of you, what are your thoughts on the current situation of the green building market in the UAE today and 5 years down the line? Thank you.
I assume I'll start first. First of all, I was positively surprised to see that the last year, there are more than 60,000 real estate properties being certified. I mean, this number I have not seen even in bigger countries, not in the region, even beyond. So I'm really positively amazed. The other thing that is very good is the plethora of the standards, but each standard is not against the other. All of them working together based on the requirements of the local authority, of the client end use. Of course, it is a very good study that the Emirates Green Building Council did, and congratulations for this initiative, as it is the first time that somebody can see how good the UAE is progressing towards its targets.
I tend to agree with Johannes. I think we are at the beginning of a journey, relatively speaking, versus other economies. There is the enthusiasm of starting something positive and new. The results are encouraging. As I mentioned before, in the next 3 to 5 years, I would wish that some of the next barriers to energy efficiency for buildings are addressed, and this is part of our roadmap. So there are only, I would say, positive signs and of encouragement, and we all hope that soon there will be additional important steps made.
From my perspective, we've seen a huge growth in the interest in certifications, especially from the existing building sector, where even the hospitality sector, schools, sectors that did not come forward earlier, industrial manufacturing, data centers, they are all taking that extra step to ensure that they are sustainable. And so we've seen a rise in that. We've not seen a particular slowdown in the new construction. We have only seen it maintain the same balance as it was. There was a huge spike due to Expo 2020, but now we've seen it even out, plateau. And we're hoping that the residential market will boom. And when that happens, we should be prepared with adequate resources to support the market in terms of certifications. So we're also working on the 4.1 beta for LEED residential to make it more adaptive towards the market. Another thing we're doing is also to collect feedback from projects regionally on the go. So that's about it.
Thank you. Abdul Ali.
Yeah. I think it's very impressive when you look at the numbers with over 60 million meters squared green space across the UAE. That's a major accomplishment for a country of this size, and places the UAE in terms of its level of certified space per GFA at one of the highest in the world. And I think it's something to be proud of as a country, as to what has been achieved. And the path ahead gives us a future opportunity for continued collaboration as we move towards net zero for new buildings by 2030 and net zero for all buildings by 2050. These two targets need and necessitate the coordination between the various entities to work together on an action plan to make this happen and to make this a reality. So we embrace the challenge. We are, in fact, as Astidama, celebrating our first decade, 10 years of implementation, and we are extremely happy at what has been achieved, and we look forward to continued challenges and working in collaboration with all various entities as we move towards common goals. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marie. Abir?
Yes. There's great potential for the green building market. It's still evolving, and although we have with so many achievements so far, there's still much room for improvement. With these innovative and smart technologies coming into more in abundant form and cost-effective and environmental friendly, all of this done in the creative way as well, where the construction techniques are evolving, BIM and cloud technologies and robot drones and robotics. All of this opens the door for further improvements, further aspects of sustainability, how we look at it into the building design itself. So the traditional approach of doing construction projects is no longer the same. It's being replaced with new innovative technologies, and this is another side of a sustainability that is not often looked at, but it's upon the innovation itself in the sector that is being continuously evolved, continuously changed, and is changing the whole market itself. So the markets is actually ready for improvement, ready for investments, and would certainly see a great attention in the future because of this new innovation that is coming across in that sector, and it will definitely go into another step ahead for the green building the green building market itself to the investment value of it.
Thank you very much, the whole team, and I am so delighted to see the positivity that is coming from the flow and, as we say, from the horse's mouth. And we are rightly so to be proud, but I hope we will not rest on our laurels, but we will really push the bar higher and higher. The UN Secretary General, His Excellency Antonio Guterres, says that one of the biggest challenges in front of achieving sustainable development goals is the investment. So this particular sector, the built environment, really is an attractor of big investments. And it is a sector as well that has got a huge impact on the society. It has got a huge impact on the economy. It has got a huge impact on the environment. So do you think, again, I will ask, whoever wants to pick this question, do you think the built environment, the urban development in the UAE is having enough investments? Is it a challenge that is facing these sectors? And what do we need to do regarding that? Whoever wants to pick that question.
I can start, and I believe all the others can continue. Initially, it was a challenge because the sustainability materials and all the techniques was something new. But we have seen that everything has been normalized from the contractor, subcontractor, the whole ecosystem of material supplies and achievements. Now, you can argue that a sustainable building is a healthy building, is a desirable building, which actually happens. But as a developer, you're afraid that your next door neighbor may have also the most sustainable building. So you come into a balance. But if we see it from a national level, if all the buildings are very sustainable and you're an investor outside of the UAE and you compare it with other countries, then it will be a preference to invest in UAE. So there are two different layers. One is the actual personal development layer, where you would like to put your staff, where you would like to put your operations. And of course, at the national level is what is the level of sustainability that needs to be in order to introduce to the world how good UAE is.
Very much. That's a beautiful answer. Anybody else wants to take that?
I think financial investment. I think financial investments are the core of all the game that we are playing. We need to make sure that whoever invests gets an adequate return from his investment. And this is not only the direct benefits, also I think something that Johannes was mentioning. It is not only the direct benefits of getting savings from better performance of the building, but we should make sure that all the other realm of benefits are captured by investors, including the fact that properties of higher sustainability standards may be better recognized in the market and therefore command higher rents or higher prices, more continuity of rents, etc. So we need to make sure that all these aspects are tackled, and otherwise we run the risk that investors may not be enough motivated to invest in green building.
Yeah, I'll just add on. Yes, I'll just add on to what Andrea said, because he's covered most of what I was about to say. When we look at even more mature real estate markets, such as in the US, the UK, Sweden, Canada, etc., there are studies there that suggest that green building certified property over time has matured to such a level that they in fact are commanding higher capital values, selling price, rent, occupancy rates, for example. Those studies are relevant right now to those very mature and developed markets, and we would hope as our market matures here in the UAE and we have even more increasing data on the performance of these green building certified assets in terms of their capital values, their occupancy rates, rental prices, etc., that similar studies can be done that are relevant to this market to demonstrate that it is in fact being proven here. And that will in fact give even greater confidence in the investment decision and the return on investment from the developers and the investor sentiment in the market. So I think there's a need here for the studies to focus on looking at the local market and what has been happening here at the real estate market and the asset value, so that we can in fact demonstrate that empirically to the investors, and that will in itself boost investor sentiment.
I would like to add something to
Please go ahead.
what Abdul said. I think we've come to a level where post the pandemic, right, any investment decision, or even during the pandemic, any investment decision should also make complete economic sense. We need to have investments that are not just good for people, people and planet, but also is profitable to a certain extent. That being said, Abdul mentioned a very valuable point. If people who do not share their stories, successful people do not share their stories, I don't think we can go anywhere, right? So the real idea is to get all of these 65 million square meters of space to say their positive story, to share how much they have saved over a period of time, and to encourage others also to join the movement. That I think can be very encouraging. On that note, I want to also mention that LEED is not incentivized in this part of the region. There are no benefits to getting a LEED certification. It's a very voluntary rating system. Now, what we did in 2018 is we launched a green home loan with Emirates NBD. And then in 2019, HSBC launched a green home loan for LEED residential homes. So we are starting small, but if people do not say their stories, how is it that we can convince financial institutions to put in the money? So that is very important.
Thank you very much. Again, beautiful. Abir, did you want to say something?
Yes, I'd like to add that the investment decision is usually influenced by the case studies of high return on investment. You know, just like what the deputy said, it's if we demonstrate that the current programs that we have saved cost on the projects from the beginning, and demonstrate that to the investment bodies, and looking into the return on investment, the decision making at the early steps is easier, is more informed. When you look at the value that you're going to get in year 3 or year 10 of your you know, the green following the istidama or whatever you know, rating system. So this is an incentive for in terms of the economic, you know, putting that economic value in the beginning of that project. So that this helps in making that decision.
Thank you very much. Beautiful. For me, Lindsay, I hope you are online. I think we only have around 6 minutes left. If there are any questions in the chat box that you would like it to be addressed.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Habiba. I think we've managed to cover the majority of the questions. So if there's any which more detailed ones, we will follow up with the participants directly. So
all
no
right,
further
excellent.
questions.
Okay, thank you. Wonderful team, gentlemen and ladies. Beautiful. I really appreciate the forthcoming of all the beautiful answers that you gave us, sharing with us your experiences and giving different perspectives to these issues. For everybody who is watching us, whether in the UAE or abroad, this is what makes UAE unique. We work as one. Diversity, what makes us unique. and we are a young nation, but we are very proud and very passionate about what we are doing. And I think one of the most important characteristics is the sense of loyalty, the sense of belonging amongst everyone who lives in this country, and the love that they develop for this country. I thank you all. I appreciate your answers, the good work that you are all doing on the ground in your own respective spheres, which helps connect all the dots, which helps put us in the lead in the sustainability arena. And it makes us all raise our heads proud wherever we are in any part of the world that we go to say that we are from the UAE. I think that's what we have for today. And thank you all for joining us. We will be sharing, of course, the link with you. The team at the office will be sharing the recording of this webinar for everyone who has attended us. We advise you and we encourage you to go on our website, download all the research materials that we have up there. Encourage, share with your stakeholders, with your supply chain, what we have available on our website. And if you need more, this is what will push us at Emirates Green Building Council to bring more. What is the latest? What is the most updated? What do we have on the ground? What are really the treasures that we have and how we can work together? I think there are a few issues that need still to be looked into on how to collaborate more effectively. I believe at Emirates Green Building Council, the way we work with our different stakeholders, be it local government entities, federal government entities, the private sector as partners, the academia, is what makes this platform so unique. Again, before I conclude, I would like to thank Kio and Majid Al-Futtaim for supporting us and working with us on this publication. This is not the end of it. We have quite a few in the pipeline for everybody else who is interested to join us in our future research material and publication. Please do so. Thank you very much for attending, and may you all have a very good, productive and healthy day. Thank you very much and goodbye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you and goodbye.
Bye.